Good afternoon and hello to all of the educators who are joining today's webinar. I welcome all of you, and we hope that today's webinar is going to be very enlightening. I would like to introduce myself right now. My name is Sumaya Nabi, and I have been given the honor of being today's host for the webinar. A little bit of introduction about K.I.T.E S. K.I.T.E S is doing a lot of hard work for arranging these kinds of webinars and spreading information for the warriors of the society, that is the educators. K.I.T.E S Education is a platform for intelligent and skillful minds, comprising schools, educators, professional students and their parents, and Erudition's corporate pillars to edifice a revolutionary mechanism. We extend our services to next realms of education to create, enact, and establish new dimensions in education system for the common weal. We are researching K-12 education by accelerating a grassroots movement conglomerating stakeholders of education to foster pedagogically sound, ambitious, inspiring, plausible, innovation driven by knowledge, technology, entrepreneurship, sportsmanship, with a desire to metamorphose current educational institution into a futuristic center of excellence to make every day count in each child's future by creating a opportunity-oriented environment in today's 21st century society and economy. The purpose of K.I.T.E S is to assist children in realizing their true potential. K.I.T.E S will aid students in their holistic development and be masters of K.I.T.E S. That is knowledge, innovation, technology, entrepreneurship, and sportsmanship. For this, we will act as an instrument to provide children-centric, passionate, skill-based, and hands-on practice. We find unique talent in each and every child by establishing equity in education. We create visionary leaderships at each and every level with an ambitious and impactful education system that is globally effective. So I think we have talked enough about K.I.T.E S. Now we have to mention the most important, of course, the speaker of today's webinar. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about Circle of Life. Circle of Life is a team of qualified and experienced mental health professionals, psychologists, and psychiatrists who have dedicated their life to development of each and every individual. They have a very unique way to foster well-being, which involves social and emotional learning, principles of positive psychology, and mindfulness. They are proud partners of Delhi government's happiness curriculum, which is being implemented in more than 1,000 government schools. Now, our speaker is within the webinar. We welcome the speaker, Ms. Vama Oswal. Ms. Vama Oswal, we welcome you with our hearts. A little bit, I'm going to speak about our dear speaker. She actively works with children and young adults, catering to their emotional and behavioral concerns in a safe and empathetic space. She supports mental health needs through low-intensive counseling strategies. Currently, a highlight of Vama's work is based on mindfulness, positive psychology, and social emotional learning for schools. Her scope of work also extends to teachers and parents. She enjoys contributing towards awareness around psychological well-being through her writing, and believes that mental health is not just the need of the hour, but the need of lifetime. Ms. Vama, we welcome you with our open hearts, and please take over. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I'm extremely flattered by that introduction. But good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for taking out the time this evening to join us in this webinar on mindfulness and leadership. I'm glad all of you could join us today. So let me just start off very quickly. I'll try and present the presentation, and let me know if you can all access it, right? Okay, so if you could just give me a quick thumbs up or a yes and no if you can see the presentation.
No, we can't see.
All right. I'll just give this another go.
Now it's possible. Yes, please.
Is
No,
it visible now?
no.
Okay. All right. I hope third time's a charm. Any luck with us? All right. So how about this? I'll start with the webinar, and during the webinar, I'll just try and sort this technical error. So hopefully,
Now it has come. Now it has come.
oh, wonderful. Great. So third time was indeed a charm for us, I guess. Right, so let me waste no more time in starting off with this webinar. So as I said, thank you so much for joining us. And I understand that we have a really unique mix of school leaders and educators. And before we formally move on to this webinar, let me just request you to give a quick pat on your back for being such extraordinary individuals in such testing times. You have stood up to all those challenges that you have been presented in the recent past. Be it education, be it your personal or your professional life, you have faced them head on. So for that, please give yourself a quick pat on the back, right? I understand that these times have been incredibly tough for most of us. It has been stressful, it has been anxiety driven. I'm sure you were overwhelmed along the way, but it gives me immense pleasure to see you all continue on the path to discovering more about your well-being and more about creating better school climates. Because as you know, now that you're transitioning from an online platform to an offline platform in the education sector, we still will continue to face tremendous amounts of challenges that will test the quality of the school climate. And these times will be stressful, these times will be anxiety driven. But as leaders, as educators of the future, we have to equip ourselves with the right kinds of skill set to pursue forward, right? So now I will formally start with my webinar. And the first task that I'll try and get all of you to do is a quick feeling check, right? So just take a moment and reflect on how you are feeling right now. Not the past, not the future, but right now. Give yourself 10-15 seconds and just reflect if there's any emotion that you're feeling intensely or any small or big feeling that you're facing. And feel free to, jot down in the comment section if you like it, or you can just write it down on a piece of paper for yourself, or just keep it in your mind. But the point is to reflect on what we're feeling right now. So let me tell you how I'm feeling right now. It has been a beautiful day. It's been raining, it's been very windy, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. So I've been feeling really good about it. I've been really happy. Also, I've been feeling a little nervous due to the webinar. And of course, technical glitches are always a trouble, but hopefully this will be a really, really good evening. Vivakar says he feels awesome. I'm glad you feel that way. So yeah, just take another moment and just reflect on how you're feeling. Now, if you can divert your attention towards the screens, you will hopefully see this image. It says, my brain has too many tabs open. Now, I'd like for all of you to just spend a minute or so and notice this picture and just quickly tell me if you can relate it with something. Have you seen this before, or does it remind you of something that you've seen this? My brain has too many tabs open. I'm sure in the recent past we've all come across situations that we can relate to. So very often, now that we are in the trend of online classes and this usage of screens has increased so much, we're so acquainted with our desktops now. And we always open a lot of tabs on our desktops, whether it be for the purpose of information, or it could be because we're multitasking on so many aspects at the same time, right? What happens to your device if you have too many tabs open? Could anyone reflect on that? Could anyone answer that? If you open
Computer gets
plenty of,
slower.
sorry?
It gets slower. The network in computer gets slower.
Yeah, thank you, Monica. It does get slower. Our laptop, our computer does tend to get slower. वो बहुत,
Reflection time is less then.
I'm sorry, what?
It doesn't reflect fast actually.
Yes, the computer system does not really respond to our commands very quickly. The efficiency is slowed down. Absolutely, Vandana. Yes, Gurmeet. कंप्यूटर बहुत जल्दी हैंग भी हो जाता है जब हमारे पास बहुत सारे टैब्स खुले होते हैं. Now, take if you can just try and quickly get back to the picture. If you relate it to our mind, it happens so often that our mind has too many tabs open. And I can explain this with a quick activity once again. So take a moment to just pause, right? Just pause, hit pause in your mind, and think about the 5 thoughts that you're having at the moment. Any 5 thoughts. They may be good, they may be bad, they may be jumbled up. But if there are any 5 thoughts you can think of in this moment that you're thinking, just try and gather them. You can write it in the chat box on a piece of paper. Just try and do this activity with me. So a few thoughts that are running in my mind are trying to handle this webinar as smoothly as possible, of course. Trying to follow up with the active comments that you're engaging in. Those are the top 2 thoughts in my mind. Divakar says, there are many thoughts, ma'am. I understand there are many thoughts. And just try and reflect on any 5 of them. So you'll notice, the purpose of this activity is that if we take the time to just press pause on our functioning, you notice that there's so much happening in our minds. There are so many thoughts, there are so many conflicting feelings at one point of time. And it does feel like there are too many tabs open in our minds. And just like you suggested, that when our computer has so many tabs open, it slows us down. Similarly, when our mind has so many thoughts, so many feelings, so many tabs open, it does tend to slow down our efficiency. Our productivity is diminished. We are overly stressed. There's burnout. Now, as school leaders, as educators who are functioning in such a fast-paced environment, we cannot afford to slow down. However, what we can afford to do is press pause and reflect on what is happening right now. Along the way, if you have any questions, feel free to write them down in the chat box, and I will definitely try and come back to it at the very end of the webinar. Now that we've, given some time to reflect on what we're thinking, how we're feeling, you will try and understand that we're often functioning in an autopilot mode. ऑटोपायलट मोड में होता क्या है, हम रियलाइज नहीं कर पाते हैं कि हम एक्चुअली कर क्या रहे हैं, हम बस एक धुन में चलते जा रहे हैं. Simply put, you know, we are so habitual to so many things going on in our lives, how we are eating, how we are walking, the way we talk to people, that we don't intentionally realize what we are saying, how we are saying it. We're just doing it without any conscious effort sometimes. And this autopilot mode can be very detrimental to how we respond to situations. Because if we just respond to situations without consciously thinking about it, we don't learn from our experiences and respond. We just keep making the same mistake. So it is very important for us to step out from this autopilot mode and gain back this control over our lives, over our decisions, over how we act, how we think, how we feel, right? And at this point of time, I'll also point at this really fascinating aspect of how we behave. If you notice the thoughts that you were having, you'll realize that, uh, majorly we are engrossed in thinking about the past, what has happened, how we reacted, or we're very often worrying about the future, what will happen, how will we cope with the challenges that life will present us. But it's very rare that we will think about what is happening right now in the present moment. Even on a regular day, you wake up, very quickly you start thinking about the the rest of the day, how it's going to pan out, क्या करना है, कैसे करना है, किससे मिलना है, किससे नहीं मिलना है. या फिर हम सोचते हैं कि कल रात को क्या हुआ था, कल शाम में क्या हुआ था, क्लास कैसी गई थी, क्या काम हमने किया, क्या काम रहता है. पर हम ये नहीं सोच रहे हैं कि अभी हमारे पास एक मोमेंट है जिसमें हम सिर्फ उस मोमेंट को जी सकते हैं without worrying about the future or getting tensed about the past. And let me switch to the next slide. We're all aware of how the pandemic has sort of posed itself. There have been tremendous amounts of challenges. And there was a really fascinating research where almost thousands of school leaders from 12 countries participated. And it was found that there were about 6 to 7 key issues that they were really facing challenges with. It was around student well-being, online teaching, finance, communicating with the families, tremendous amounts of confusion that was happening on how to proceed with online classes, so on and so forth. Now, in this rush of challenges, if we are engrossed in thinking about the past or worrying about the future, when will we get the time to actually combat the challenge? So there's a very fascinating, theory which says that between stimulus and response, there's a space, and in that space, there's the power to choose our response. And in our response lies growth and freedom. This theory is very close to my heart because it gives us new perspective in terms of how we can act and how we can react. As educators, as school leaders, we've faced so many challenges. So the stimulus was a challenge, and immediately we gave a response to it. But very rarely did we give ourselves the time and the space to step back, really think about the challenge, really think about what we're feeling, and then respond. Now, this space conveys a lot about the key issue of my webinar today, which is mindfulness. And before I talk about mindfulness at great length, I'd like to talk just a little bit about leadership and its significance. Now, I feel sometimes the role of leadership, as a leader, it's underestimated in terms of the skill set that you have to possess, in terms of the responsibilities that you have to cater to and exercise. Because leadership is one of the toughest positions that you can handle in your life. You require a unique skill set to cope with, a vast team, to cope with this roller coaster of success and failure. And I'm sure at some point we've all been in that leadership position. And if you have been, kindly comment in the chat box. You can always talk about um, your experience as a leader. What did you face? Any feelings that you primarily had? Because I understand as a leader, there are so many factors which can cause stress, which can cause anxiety, which can overwhelm us. um, there are so many tasks and responsibilities, and they overburden us. There's a pile of work at a desk, and it feels like it's just building and building and building. It just doesn't seem to die down. Work is there all the time. And as leaders, I think we always take pride in how well can we multitask. कि अरे हम तो मीटिंग में कॉल भी कर रहे हैं, हम बात भी कर रहे हैं किसी से, हम कभी कभी कॉफी भी पी रहे हैं, खाना खा रहे हैं. There's just so much going on in that one moment, and we take pride in how well we can multitask. But if you think back in that moment, do you actually remember talking to somebody? Do you actually remember investing your time and effort in one task? Do you remember the taste of your food? Do you remember what the other person was talking about? No. It's quite possible that you don't remember all of that, all those little details that matter so much. It is often said that it is the little things, the little moments that count so much more. And this is where I will get to mindfulness, one of my favorite topics to work on. Now, I'd like your complete attention for the next at least couple of minutes, because I think you can relate very well to this. As educators, so I believe that even if I have school leaders in my audience, I also, at the end of the day, we recognize all of us as educators who wish to, be a source of inspiration um, towards building a positive and a healthier school climate, right? Now, as educators, we're very familiar with the classroom setting. चाहे वो ऑफलाइन हो, चाहे वो ऑनलाइन हो, हम बहुत अच्छे से समझते हैं क्लासरूम सेटिंग को. And when we have students with us, we are very familiar with this phrase that every classroom has heard plenty of times. The phrase is pay attention. Even when we were students, our teachers would often tell us to pay attention. And as educators, now we tell our students to pay attention. Pay attention to what is happening in the class. Don't pay attention to other things, what you're, the sounds that you're hearing from the outside, or, just ignore the other person who's talking. Just try and focus in this moment to what is here right now. Have you ever used this phrase of pay attention or any similar phrases to, gain the attention of the student? If yes, please write down in the comment section. Because I think it is this, phrase of pay attention which directs us to this concept of mindfulness. Because mindfulness is the awareness that emerges through paying attention on purpose in the present moment without any judgments, and just living that moment one by one, each moment at a time. Yes. And I think this concept of mindfulness, it sounds very simple. However, it is complex because rarely do we all practice being mindful. In fact, our mind is usually full with so many thoughts and so many feelings. And there's just, a hodgepodge. Whenever our mind is full, uh, it's like a jigsaw puzzle which keeps getting harder and harder to solve. हमें समझ नहीं आता कि हम किस चीज़ को पहले अटेंशन पे करें, किस चीज़ को बाद में ध्यान दें, क्या इग्नोर करें, क्या नहीं करें. Because our mind is full of, energy and thoughts and feelings. But being mindful actually relates to being in the present moment, without any judgments, without thinking whether it's good or bad, whether it's beneficial or not. It's just experiencing the present moment as it is. And, a key factor that I'd like to add in here is that we often misunderstand mindfulness in a lot of aspects. So, mindfulness does not mean being positive all the time, or it does not mean, clearing our mind of all the thoughts. It does not. So, mindfulness does not mean getting rid of your thoughts, because you can never do that. You will always have plenty of thoughts in your mind. What mindfulness really helps you to do is to center yourself. It helps you give yourself the time and the space to concentrate on one thought at a time and then understand what to do with it. How do you want to respond to it? That's the essence of mindfulness. And the wonderful part about mindfulness is, uh, it is very conscious of the inevitability of stress and challenges in our life. हमें पता है कि लाइफ में हर वक्त स्ट्रेस, चैलेंज, कोई डिफिकल्ट सिचुएशन हमेशा आएगी. माइंडफुलनेस से ये सब कम नहीं हो जाएगा. पर माइंडफुलनेस से हमें एक राह मिलती है कि हम इन स्ट्रेसफुल सिचुएशंस को रिस्पॉन्ड कैसे करें, इन्हें सही तरीके से समझे कैसे और सही तरीके से रिएक्ट कैसे करें. इट गिव्स अस दैट टाइम एंड स्पेस. And that's a wonderful power to have, especially as a leader, because you're bound with so many tasks at one point. And now, very quickly, I'll take you through the many benefits of mindfulness, and then we'll start talking about how mindfulness and relationship are, are a wonderful combination to carry as educators and as leaders. So, very quickly, mindfulness helps us to increase our attention. It gives us this big boost to our memory and self awareness. And we also sort of, our ability to regulate our emotions better, our moods better, increases tremendously. Our sleep cycles improve, our appetite improves, and just the overall experience of life. There's a very, I think, qualitative change to when we are mindful. Right. And now we come on to the key issue of our topic, which is mindful leadership. And it says that mindful leadership includes a sense of attention and intention to be in the present moment with a lot of hope and compassion. In fact, over here, I'd also like to add that we become present in the moment, of course, with hope and compassion, but also with a lot of curiosity. So instead of judging whether the moment is good or bad, we are only curious about what is this moment. इस मोमेंट में है क्या, ये मोमेंट हमें क्या ऑफर कर रहा है, and how do we react to it. And I also believe that as leaders, it's very important to focus on the present moment, because as I said before, there's so many tasks and challenges facing you at every point of the day. Things that you have to finish up from the past, and the incoming challenges from the future. But you can only handle all these challenges in the present. It's only if you focus right here, right now, that you can gain the energy to, combat with challenges of the future. I'll give you a very small example. दिन भर में हम लोग हमेशा आगे या पीछे के बारे में सोचते हैं, जैसे मैं काफी बारी बोलती आ रही हूँ. So let's imagine when you wake up, you think of so many things. It's like a to-do list already forming in your head. कितनी सारी मीटिंग्स हैं दिन भर में, कितनी सारी क्लासेस हैं, आपकी स्टाफ मीटिंग्स हो सकती हैं, आपके पर्सनल लाइफ के कुछ क्राइटेरियाज हो सकते हैं. तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल हम सुबह उठते हैं और हम सोचते हैं कि अरे अब तो क्लास करना है और क्लासेस काश जल्दी खत्म हो जाए, फिर हम दूसरा काम करेंगे. जैसी क्लासेस खत्म होती हैं आप सोचते हो कि अच्छा ये तो खत्म हो गया, पर अब दूसरा काम करना है और फिर हमें शाम को घर देखना है. वो काम खत्म होता है, आप घर देखना शुरू कर देते हो, but you never really realize the happiness that you had when you finished the class. We never step back to realize one good moment of our classes that day. We're constantly running and running and running. And oftentimes we get tired, we get fatigued. There's a sense of burnout. And as leaders, we cannot afford a situation of burnout because we have to be alert and relaxed and energetic towards the situation to respond very calmly. Only when a leader is very calm and relaxed can a team be very calm and relaxed. Mindful leadership is a lot about acceptance and awareness. It's about being fully present in that moment and dealing with situations with a lot of compassion, with a lot of kindness and support. And it's also important to let go because, as you know, mindfulness leadership is like a roller coaster of good things and bad things. And we have to try and let go of a failure to learn how to succeed more often. And it all matters in how we respond to these situations. I know it may sound complex at this point of time, but I would really recommend that give yourself just a moment to pause. Now, very quickly, we'll try and discuss some of um, the easiest ways to incorporate mindfulness in your life and move towards the path of being a mindful leader. And trust me, all of these, components and all of these exercises are really easy, and you can fit them very well in your daily life. Now, first and foremost, as I've said a couple of times already, try and hit the pause button at least once during your day. So if you're facing a plethora of challenges, you may have plenty of meetings, you may have plenty of calls, you may have plenty of webinars to attend. Just take a moment to pause and reflect on what is happening, how you've been feeling, and how you want to respond to a certain situation. So, very quickly, I'll ask you a quick question. Um, how would you prepare yourself if you knew that in just a while there's a storm coming and it's going to rain really hard? How would you prepare yourself? आपको पता है कि आपने बाहर जाना है, पर आपको ये भी पता है कि बहुत तेज बारिश आने वाली है. How would you prepare? Will you think of a few things to carry? I'd like to, know some of your responses. If you knew the weather conditions of the outside, would it help you to prepare on how to respond? Because if I knew that a storm was coming my way, yes, thank you, Gazala. I was about to say the same thing. अगर मुझे पता हो कि बारिश आने वाली है and I have to step outside, I will carry an umbrella or a raincoat. I will also try and carry a bag or a waterproof bag of some sort so that my device or my documents or anything that I'm carrying that is not messed up. Yes, of course. Most of us would carry an umbrella, a raincoat, or a bag to protect ourselves. That's what we do. We prepare ourselves. But because we've given us the time to be aware of the incoming rain. Similarly, in mindfulness, if you hit pause, if you take the time to understand what's coming your way, you can prepare yourself better. बारिश को कोई रोक नहीं सकता है, पर आप सिर्फ अपने आप को बेटर प्रिपेयर कर सकते हो उस बारिश को हैंडल करने के लिए. सिमिलरली स्ट्रेस को कोई रोक नहीं सकता है, चैलेंजेस को कोई रोक नहीं सकता है, बट यू कैन प्रिपेयर योरसेल्फ बेटर एंड यू कैन बी मोर एफिशिएंट टू कैरी आउट योर रिस्पॉन्सेज to deal with that situation effectively. So hit that pause button on and off, take a step back, and just try and reflect on what's going on in your mind, how you've been feeling. The next exercise is to notice your breath. And in fact, that's one of my favorite um, ways to practice mindfulness. Why? Because breath is something that is with us at all times. चाहे हम सो रहे हैं, चाहे हम जाग रहे हैं, कुछ भी कर रहे हैं, our breath is a constant guide. It is a constant anchor which can help you to center yourself, to ground yourself. So right here in this moment, if you can take 5 seconds to just focus on your breath, just focus on how you inhale and then observe how you exhale. This involuntary response is magical to me because it helps me to hold on to my present. It helps me to know that I'm here. I'm right here, right now. I'm not in my future. I'm not in my past. I'm a product of the present moment. And when I notice my breath, I know I can lend some level of control to my present moment. I can control my reactions. And if you gave yourself this um, time to notice your breath, raise a hand. Let me know if you did. And let me also know how you felt. If you felt any changes, if you felt good or bad, if you felt aware or distracted. The third thing, this is actually an indirect way of practicing mindfulness, is to set an alarm to practice mindfulness. So throughout the day, you can set out some time to help yourself remind when to hit that pause button. And trust me, it can really, really help you to take the time and space to reflect on what's going on. Now, as educators and as school leaders, we've walked our school grounds a whole lot. And I remember one of my teachers, she told me this fascinating anecdote. Um, my professor actually at university said that one day she was walking the corridor of the university and she realized that she was just preparing a to-do list in her head, as I've mentioned before. She was thinking of the upcoming meetings, of the upcoming assignments of the students that she had to check, her roster, the lectures. Um, she also had to schedule some of her things from her personal life, some social gatherings, so on and so forth. And she failed to observe the beauty around her. Our university was, placed in a really beautiful setting. There were huge, massive grounds, and she failed to observe that. And the moment she did observe it, that's when it hit her that her to-do list will always keep forming. हम हर वक्त आगे के बारे में सोचते रहेंगे. हम कभी भी वक्त नहीं निकालते हैं अभी के बारे में सोचने के लिए. And we should do that more often. As a school leader, I can't imagine the pride that you would feel walking at your school corridor, holding your head high with a really straight spine and being really proud of how far you've come along in spite of so many challenges. So I would encourage you, whenever you take a walk, just try and observe. Just try and observe how you're feeling. Don't think about your past. Don't think about your future, but just your present moment. And as educators, we have to listen to our students a whole lot. But do we really listen to them? Even now, I understand that a lot of you are hearing me talk, but most of the times we fail to listen because it is only when we intentionally pay attention to something or someone talking that is when we are listening. Last but not the least, you can also practice mindful eating. I think eating is one of those activities which we do a whole lot, but we rarely pay any attention to it. And I understand as professionals, हम बहुत busy हैं throughout the day. बहुत कुछ है करने को पर्सनली एंड प्रोफेशनली और हम शायद बिल्कुल अटेंशन पे किए बिना खाते हैं नोटिस नहीं करते हैं टेस्ट कैसा है किसने बनाया कितनी मेहनत से बनाया बस खा लिया काम खत्म और नेक्स्ट काम पे हम लग गए सो लेट अस टेक द टाइम टू ईट माइंडफुली नोटिस द टेस्ट appreciate the food that you're having. And I understand it may sound really silly at some point, but when you do it, it can create a whole lot of change. Now, I also understand that a lot of people are raising hands. So if you have any questions, feel free to just write them down in the chat box. Because I just think that if I can sort of try and move with the flow of the webinar and then get back to the questions, it would really help us to pay attention to what is happening right now, and then we can focus on one thing at a time and then move to the next thing. But feel free to raise a hand and question, ask questions or comment if you feel so. Okay. Now, so far we've discussed this really interesting concept of mindfulness. We've also discussed how mindfulness can be incorporated into leadership. And now we get on to why we're all learning about this. Are there any benefits to being a mindful leader? So let's, very quickly run through them. When we are mindful, we are very, how do I put it? We are very aware of what is happening within us and what is happening around us. And that helps us to improve our social relationships. It also helps us to enhance productivity because then we're not multitasking. We are only focusing at one work at one point of time. With mindfulness, there's a very major boost to our resilience. We are not, uh, bogged down with our failures. Instead, we learn from them and we learn how to cope with stress much better. And there's this really fascinating richness of experience that we experience. Because I think the great part about mindfulness is that it can be done anywhere and at any point of time. So even in the ordinary tasks that uh, you are doing, you can incorporate mindfulness and you can experience them better. You can experience them more fully. And remember, I talked a lot about the stimulus and your response, us functioning in an autopilot mode. With mindfulness, we get that space to learn from our experiences. और हम जब अपने एक्सपीरियंस से लर्न करते हैं, हम एसेंशियली ग्रो कर रहे हैं, हम अपनी पोटेंशियल को और बढ़ा रहे हैं, हम हेल्दी रिस्पॉन्सेज को इनवाइट कर रहे हैं, हम फिर रैश डिसीजंस नहीं लेते हैं. What we, how we react and what we react incorporates the more healthier and the very thought through decisions um, of our life. And the last two benefits, they talk a lot about um, being a mindful leader gives you an extra edge in terms of the amount of focus that you have, the clarity of situations that you have, the amount of compassion that you can use while dealing with situations, and the creative um, reactions that you come up with. And as leaders, I also understand that you have to work with a team. You are in a position where you have to guide and sort of nurture that team. With mindfulness, you get an opportunity to embrace the individuality of your team members while maintaining a sense of unity. And I think that's a quality that most leaders miss nowadays. They do not embrace the individuality of their team members and they rush them into doing things. And how can we do that when we as leaders, when we ourselves are not paying enough attention, enough focus on what is happening right now, when we are not clear of the challenges that we are facing? Because only a relaxed and an alert and an energetic leader can empower a team, can push them to the best of their potential. And as it's written below, let's never forget the ripple effect that mindful leadership can have. Most of us have read through this concept of ripple effect. It talks about how you throw a stone in water and it sort of creates this energy loop which just keeps going and going. Similarly, a leader is at the center of a group. It's at the center of a team. In the case of a school, you are the center, and around you exist all the educators, all the stakeholders of the school community. So, be it parents or administrators, educators, students also. If you, as a school leader, are calm, you're composed, you're focused, you're clear of the challenge at hand, and you're giving yourself the time and space to think of creative solutions, to think of healthy solutions, that creates a ripple effect. And now your educators will respond calmly. If an educator is calm, the students themselves are calm. If the students are calm, the parent is calm. That ripple effect is created very smoothly with mindfulness. Now, when we talk of a mindful leader, let's not forget um, a mindful school. I've talked about ripple effect just now. So, being a mindful leader can actually help you to foster and nurture a mindful school. And don't we all want that? As educators, as school leaders, as people who want to push for a healthier and a happier school. We all wish to be that change, but we can only be that change when we are that change ourselves. So, in a mindful school, among administrators and school leaders, there's smooth communication, there's improved decision making. Your time management is has been improved so well, and overall, you just feel this aura of well-being and happiness around you. And among students, there's better, academic output. There's a significant decrease in absenteeism. To bring that calmness and happiness in your school. And Circle of Life, they have this wonderful initiative, Mind On. I'd like to talk to you about fitness and well-being curriculum. Mind On is Mind On is it's a scientifically backed program which has been thoughtfully curated by our team of psychologists and psychiatrists uh, to induce positivity, calm, happiness in the school environment. And it reaches to all the stakeholders of the school community. So there's a lot for our students, of course, but there's also a lot for our teachers and administrators and our parents as well. Now, the best part about Mind On is, of course, that it's scientific, um, but it's also very easy to adapt to any school curriculum, whether it's online or offline. It's age appropriate, so we have something for every grade. And Mind On as a program is based on the aspects of positive psychology, mindfulness, and social emotional learning. This is the spine of a program. And we also feel that a healthy school is a happy school. And for a happy school, it's not just necessary to take care of, uh, the physical hygiene that we mostly talk about. We also need a very good brain hygiene to ensure that the social and emotional intelligence of our school community is maintained. And that can be done through mindfulness and social emotional learning. Now, I'll just guide you through the deliverables of our Mind On program, the key components of the program. We are immensely proud of, our program because it's very detailed in nature and it has something for everyone. First up, we have an elaborate set of guided audio practices, which are age appropriate and they follow themes of mindfulness for different classes. And the best part is that these are very short and they can be run across 3 intervals during a school day. So at the very beginning, during the break, and before the school gives over, you can practice 1.5 or 2 minutes of mindfulness. And these transition points are the most crucial ones for any school because this is a time when students get distracted very quickly or teachers get lethargic very quickly. So we have daily audio practices of mindfulness that we update um, in our program. The second and the most important bit of a program are the mind on journals. Now, these journals are extremely fun, they're extremely engaging, they foster this sense of creativity and problem solving among students. But most of all, they try and help the student to cultivate the skill of mindfulness by themselves. There are hints of social emotional learning activities as well, but at the bottom of it beautifully complements the entire program because it's a journal that is, uh, self-paced. And the best part is that there are no right or wrong answers. This journal, Mind on Journal, allows the student to be themselves, to explore themselves, know themselves better, the people around them, and react to situations in a much healthier and a positive way. The third aspect of a Mind on program is the Mind on Live. Now, this component includes all the workshops and webinars that we conduct with all the stakeholders of the school community. So we have a exclusive 8-session mindfulness program for teachers where they learn the skill of mindfulness and how that can be incorporated in a school setting. Apart from this, we have a set of workshops for teachers as well as parents and students. And then, the entire program incorporates teacher training at its heart. Apart from that, you get regular assistance from our team of psychologists and psychiatrists. Now, the highlight of the entire program is that it's digital. We are very aware of the present circumstances. The pandemic has sort of pushed all of us to explore technology and how that can be incorporated in our fields, which is why Mind On is now totally digital. You can access it via our Mind On app, which has all the components available. And if you wish to know more information about Mind On, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll drop a link in the comment section later on where you can know more about Mind On. Now, I think that brings us to the end of this webinar. You've been an incredibly patient audience, and I think I'll hand it over to the event host now, and we'll take it forward from there.
Thank you so much, Ms. Vama, Oswal. This has been such a wonderful and informative session. And at the end of this event, all of us feel so in the moment and enlightened and mindful. And I equally hope that all of the educators have felt the same and even way better. If any of the educators has any question, you guys can comment in the comment section. And also about the participation certificate, I would like to make this little announcement. At the end of the meeting, you guys will be receiving a thank you mail. And within the thank you mail, there will be a feedback link. Once you fill the feedback form, you will be getting the participation certificate, the e-participation certificate within 1 to 2 days. And thank you so much for being beautiful speakers. And this has been such a great experience. And also, you guys can subscribe to our YouTube channel, for which we are providing the link within the comment section. You can check out our previous webinars filled with beautiful speakers and a lot of information that will be definitely useful for the heroes of this nation. Thank you very much and have a blessed day.
Right, so I'll just check the comment section for any questions or queries or comments that you might have. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for being such a patient audience. Thank you, it was very. Oh, thank you, Shelja. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I really hope that it was indeed an informative session for all of you. Okay. Um, so I have this question. I have this question from Rashida. How can we inculcate mindfulness in children? Oh, I'm so glad that you asked this question. We often think that mindfulness as a skill can only be incorporated among adults, among people who have, some knowledge of what they're doing. But to our major surprise, mindfulness is a skill which can be incorporated among children who are as young as 3 years old, 3.5, 4 years old as well. Um, we just need to understand the various tricks and the various exercises that people or children of that age can do. So, one of the easiest exercises that we can do with them is the mindful breathing technique. So, have them, place a belly on their hand and have them observe how their hand moves when they inhale and exhale. And try and have them notice to the minute sensations that they can experience in the body, because I always focus on breath because that is something you always have. That is something that every live person will ever have. You don't need extra resources, you don't need an extra material. All you need is some amount of focus and attention um, towards your breath. And also, you know, Mind On, the program that um, we've curated, it has plenty of activities and components that help children cultivate the skill of mindfulness and social emotional learning. And you can always access our website, which is mindon.in. I'll be sure to drop a link um, over here, and you can all access any more information that you feel to uh, get over there. Will mindfulness help offending youth? I'm not sure if I get the question, but what I can suggest is that it is the youth of today that requires mindfulness much more than anyone else, because we are bombarded with this immense force of technology, which is always expanding, it is always ever growing. And what they need right now is to focus on themselves. Because when you are mindful about yourself, you are better prepared to take on the future. So, mindfulness is incredible um, for the youth. So, yes, if you have any more questions, you can write to us later on. And that's it from my side at the very end. I will only say that keep taking good care of yourselves, also keep taking care of the people around you, and let's try and take a moment from our busy lives to be mindful and see the difference for yourself, right? Thank you so much and have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. You guys can leave the meeting now, and definitely will be getting the thank you mail. And within that, as I said, you will be getting the e participation certificate. Thank you very much, and have a great day.